What is going on, Minecraft Java Edition players that play Java Edition Minecraft with Zalith Launcher? Today, I'm using the Redmagic 10 Pro to show you the differences between not using distant horizons and using distant horizons. So let's go do that right now so you can actually see the difference. Rendering and blam! Look at distant horizons. This is freaking awesome. So I'm going to let you go that distant horizons is still going to be very demanding on your GPU and your CPU of your device, okay? A lot of people are like, oh, test out distant horizons with shaders and all that fun jazz. Sure, that's fun and all, but even the most powerful Redmagic devices, we can use shaders and you can tinker around with settings and everything. Like I'm using 100% resolution scale right now, as you can see here with 1920 by 1080, and I'm seeing everything. I can see everything for miles and miles and miles. Now, honestly, when I'm down here, I'm not really seeing that much, you know, like if there's mountains in the way and stuff like that, like, yeah, I can see those mountains all the way over there, which is freaking awesome. And yeah, I can zoom in and look at them if I wanted to. But when I'm down here and I'm underneath the ground and all that kind of stuff, having, you know, distant horizons running isn't something that you probably always want to have. But unless you want to see like really far into the caves and stuff, like this mountain right here, I won't be able to see this if I turn off distant horizons. So if I turn off the rendering, I don't know that mountain's there, which is the cool thing about distant horizons. Like I like distant horizons, and again, this is something that I'm going to let you know really strongly is that you need a decent phone to be able to use distant horizons. Now, I'm not saying that your Helio G59 or your, you know, MediaTek Dimensity D6000 is not going to let it work or do its thing. Like you can tinker with settings and stuff like that to get distant horizons to better, you know, balance settings and all that kind of stuff, like changing the chunk distance and all that kind of stuff. Like what this does is basically changes how far you can see. So if I change this to like 64, for example, you're not going to see those mountains still, and it's going to crash. Okay, so there's a lot of issues with distant horizons on phones too. It crashes a lot, so that's because of the renderer and everything like that as well. So when you're tinkering with the settings while you're inside the actual game, sometimes you might have those crashes, and you might want to set those settings up before you actually get into the game. But the whole thing is that when I set that down to 64, you guys could see that the chunks weren't actually loading in. Let's go back and test these settings quick here. Did it actually even save? No, it didn't. So let's change that to 64. And I don't know why my keyboard doesn't want to work with this. 64. There we go. Okay, done, and go to single player, and let's go back to that world. Hopefully it's saved where I was. If not, we can just fly right over there. Yeah, there's that mountain right there. So we're at 64 chunks, and when we turn this off, it goes away. So when we go and turn that back on, it's coming back. But what if I go back to 128 chunks? How much further can I see? And see, it doesn't want to work. And that's the thing about distant horizons. It is very buggy on Android, not as buggy on a computer. But if you want me to do like a side-by-side comparison between Android and a computer with distant horizons, let me know in the comment section below, and subscribe, of course. Don't forget to do that. Now let's wait for it to load. I know this wasn't, you know, probably what you wanted to hear when it comes to distant horizons, but let's change this to 128. Okay, it's very hard to, you know, mess with these settings while we're in the game with the options that we have on these devices because of the way that distant horizon works. Like even newer versions of distant horizons doesn't want to render properly or even load at all. So like as you can see here, look at, if I turn this off and on, it's going to start slowly finally start rendering in, and there we go, there's those mountains right there. And that's because there's something with the renderer, and there's something with, you know, Java Minecraft in general with Android. Like distant horizons very demanding on both the CPU and GPU still. Like this isn't gonna fix, you know, hey, I you know, can't see very far. Okay, like if I change like the resolution or the render distance, let's go back to my render distance here. I'm at 8 chunks right now, but if I change this to like 4 chunks, I'm gonna actually plug in my device here. Hold on, there we go. I changed it to 4 chunks. chunks. I'm gonna go down, done, go back to game. 4 chunks, we're still seeing quite far, right? But the 4 chunks is starting to change the resolution of like certain areas in the world and stuff. Like I didn't even know that village was there until now. So let's go to options for a second. I'm gonna change something in my controls, go to keybinds. I think I put zoomify on. There it is right there. Okay, I'm gonna use, nope, not shift left, Z, okay, Z. So let's go back, and see the village over there. You know the village is there, but it's blurry as all can be. Like look how freaking how flat it is. But that's what Distant Horizons is for. It's just like, hey, I know that village is over there. I know those trees are over there, but look at how bad they look. Like they're just all flat. And I'm not saying that Distant Horizons is bad, but it does cut your, hold on a minute, time, set, day. It does cut your actual resolution down a lot. Like right now, like I said, this is Distant Horizons right here. You'll know this is Distant Horizons because we're only rendering 4 chunks, and those 4 chunks will start rendering in when you get close to them. But when you're further away, then that's when you notice the 4 chunk difference. So what I mean by that is not the chunks for the 128 that is the LOD chunks. This is the level of detail. It's the actual video settings when you go here. So if I change this all the way down to 2 chunks and I use Distant Horizons, you're still only going to see the 2 chunks distance. So right here, you're not going to see that when we turn off Distant Horizons, okay? So that's how far 2 chunks is, those trees right there. So if we go to options, this is kind of like an education of what I understand about Distant Horizons. So this tree right here, that's 2 chunks, right? That's what we just determined. But when we turned on Distant Horizons, so we can see a whole bunch of crap, a whole bunch of graphics in the background, not crap, but graphics back there. And we don't know that's there, but when we have Distant Horizons turned on, we could just, you know, be like, oh cool, we have 2 chunks, but Distant Horizons is on, and we know that there's a big mountain over there, and when we zoom in, we know it looks like crap, but we're not seeing that from all the way back here. We're just seeing that that mountain is there and it's all flat, and we're getting to see what is going on in our world. And I like Distant Horizons for that, but again, it's still going to affect your GPU and CPU load, even if you do have like the highest end of phones. But this phone is a Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset, and it's doing very well right now, honestly. Other than the crashes, like right here, I can see that there's a village over there. Now I can't tell that that's a village. Really, I can tell it is kind of from back here because that's all you can see. You can't really, you're not zooming in all the time, right? But if I zoom in like this, I'm like, oh, I think that looks like a house. So that's really, you know, what it is just Distant Horizons is helping with, you know, being able to see more stuff around further away and stuff like that. But like, as you can see, this house right here, right? If I change this video setting to, let's go with 10 chunks. Let's see if that 10 chunks should show us what that village looks like. Go back. And now those 10 chunks, we can actually tell that that's a village. See? So 10 chunks is showing that village, and look at our FPS. It's still sitting at like 100 plus FPS. That's because this phone is a beast. But yeah, that village is actually rendering in now. And that's the difference between, you know, having Distant Horizons turned on and off too, is just like we can still see that far in a sense, but we're only seeing that far, right? That's where we're seeing to. We're not seeing like the rest of this mountain over here unless we turn on Distant Horizons. And even though we can see, you know, that mountain over there, like we can see the full graphics right now because I have the 10 chunks set up. But the big difference is that we can see this village right now. We can see that that is a village house with that render distance, but not every phone can handle that render distance with even Distant Horizons turned on. And a lot of people think that, oh, I'm gonna get Distant Horizons and it's gonna fix being able to see a lot of things. And like I said, like I can see that, but look at, that's where the max 10 render distance is split. So if I set this to 11 render distance, I should be able to see these blocks right here. So let's test that theory out really quickly here. And actually, let's go to 12. Let's go to 12. And then let's see if my theory is right. I know it is because I've already tested a lot of this stuff. And look at, we can actually tell that that's the actual edge of the chunks right here. And then now we can see that, oh, that looks like coal, but is it actually coal? Well, we won't be able to tell until we actually crank up the resolution or the render distance again to 16. and then it's got to basically load in and tell us that, hey, yeah, you're rendering a lot of crap in the background. Your CPU and GPU is going to burn up soon. So yeah, look at, now we can tell that that's cool right there, that one right there. But you're not going to want to run like that. You're going to want to use like a lower, you know, render distance probably. And I think that's fine. I don't really, you know, like for phones, it's helpful a little bit. If your phone is a decent phone, you might be able to get away with, you know, the render distance and everything like that. But again, that's also your LOD distance too. So like, I know this is going to crash again. So let's go and change this to 256 again, which was the default. There goes a crash. And let's go back into the game. And I'm going to go back into the options before we go back into the game. So this is just something that always happens too. I don't know what it is. Not always, but just certain versions of Minecraft that this happens with too. Like it's a certain version, certain updates. Now, like the latest update of Distant Horizons with this version, which is 1.2, 1.4, doesn't actually work. But as you can see here, Distant Horizons is kind of doing its work, but it's taking a few seconds, and that's because it's on a phone, right? Like we're on a phone right now, but look at, I don't know, that's a village. I can kind of tell it's a village, but that's the LOD distance, and the LOD distance you don't want to really have too far, especially on a phone. And you know, that's going to, you know, make it so that you can't really render a lot because your CPU and GPU is not going to be able to handle it. So the level of detail, that is just how many chunks you can get some detail out of. Some people can crank that up to like in the thousands, I've seen on some PCs, but like normally we would not be able to see all of this. And this was actually a really cool seed, and I'm very happy about this seed because I just jumped into a random seed and I built that little tower over there, and I was able to, you know, see that the render distance with this turned on and off, look at the difference. You don't even know those mountains are there. But anyways, have a nice day. Hope you enjoyed that little lesson, I guess. And you subscribed because I'm going to do a little bit more stuff about stuff like this. But look at the FPS. Now I'm getting like 900 FPS, but there's also some graphical issues happening. I don't know what it is. Bye-bye!